All right, continuing on, we're now going to look at this last topic in this section on estimation. In particular, we're going to be looking at confidence interval estimation of individual treatment means. Now, you'll recall that we started off this section by looking at point estimation of individual treatment means, but we didn't have all the machinery that we needed at that time to construct confidence intervals for those individual treatment means. But given what we saw in the last lecture video on estimating non-contrast linear combinations of treatment means, we now have everything we need to be able to do this. So recall that an unbiased estimator of mu sub j, the mean treatment response under treatment j, is given by the mean of the sample of observations that have received treatment j. All right, and so that is denoted by mu hat sub j. The estimators of the variance and standard deviation of mu hat sub j are, as we found previously, given by these expressions that have been expressed in terms of the mean square for blocks, MSR, and the mean square error, MSE. And so the variance, the estimated variance of mu hat sub j is equal to the mean square for blocks, MSR, plus t minus 1 times MSE, all of that divided by the total number of observations in the experiment, r times t. And the estimated standard deviation of mu hat sub j is just the square root of that quantity. Now, as we said when we first started looking at point estimation for the individual treatment means, we said that when we finally get to looking at a two-sided confidence interval estimate for the treatment mean mu sub j, it's going to be of the following form. Mu hat sub j, right, our point estimator for mu sub j. That's where we start, and then we go a distance to the left and to the right equal to the margin of error. We couldn't do it before, though, because we didn't know how to calculate t star, this approximate interval coefficient. This, again, is the present context is one of those situations where we don't know the true distribution from which to get the interval coefficient. Again, it may be a t-distribution, but it does not have degrees of freedom equal to r minus 1 times t minus 1. And so we have to try to approximate the correct or appropriate interval coefficient. We saw how to do that in the context of estimating non-contrast linear combinations of treatment means. And so we'll utilize those same two approximation methods. And so here is the first method. This is equivalent to what we called approximation 1 in the previous lecture video, but you'll see it looks a little bit different here. It's somewhat simplified. It does not involve Q1 and Q2, and the reason is that for the situation that we're looking at now, an individual treatment mean, Q1 and Q2, they cancel out. And so we see here, or at least some of those terms cancel out, and this is what it simplifies to. So anyway, if you want to see the calculations, go ahead and do it. It's very easy, just a simple algebraic thing. All right, but so this is what it simplifies to. All right, so it's expressed in terms of the mean square for blocks, the mean squared error, the two t values, df1, the first degrees of freedom here, are still equal to r minus 1. df2, the degrees of freedom associated with that t value, is r minus 1 times t minus 1. And then we have t minus 1 here, t being the number of treatments. And so it is somewhat simplified. And again, but it's still a linear combination, or it's a weighted average of these two t values. All right, so it'll be between those two t values. And so that's one method for finding an approximate interval coefficient that we can use to construct the interval. The other method is to instead approximate the degrees of freedom. And again, we do get this simplification because we're looking at just one individual treatment mean. All right, and so in this case, the degrees of freedom are given by this expression. All right, so again, df1 is r minus 1, df2 is r minus 1 times t minus 1. And so we can use either of these two approximation methods to come up with the approximate interval coefficient, and then we use that interval coefficient to calculate an approximate margin of error. All right, now interval coefficients. So by the way, if we these two methods are used for coming up with the interval coefficients for two-sided confidence intervals, because you'll notice we've got alpha over 2 here, all right, in both of these. If what we needed was a one-sided confidence interval, then we would, instead of having alpha over 2 in those formulas, we would have alpha, but we would still use the same procedure. And so, and that would give us then our approximate interval coefficient. So if all we needed was a lower confidence limit, and in particular a 1 minus alpha times 100% lower confidence limit for mu sub j, then this would be the formula for that. If what we needed was a 1 minus alpha times 100% upper confidence limit alone for mu sub j, then instead of subtracting, we would add. All right, the margin of error for the interval is still equal to the product of the approximate interval coefficient, the upper alpha percentage point of that approximate distribution, times the estimated standard deviation of mu sub j. And if we wanted a two-sided confidence interval, then it would be of this form here. All right, so that is all we're going to say at this point. We've looked at all of these different possible procedures for calculating point estimates, but also, and then perhaps more importantly, for, well, at least equally importantly, looking at confidence interval estimates for all these different scenarios. Point estimates for individual treatment means, point and confidence interval estimates for differences between treatment means. We've looked at how to construct point estimates and confidence interval estimates for general contrasts of 2 or more treatment means. We've looked at how to calculate point estimates and confidence interval estimates for non-contrast linear combinations of treatment means. And then finally, and as a special case of that last one we just talked about, just mentioned, we've looked at how to then also calculate confidence intervals for individual treatment means.